Hello, my name is Claire Whitmer, and I was invited to participate on a panel about raising makers at Maker Faire Bay Area 2019. And unfortunately, the entire session was not recorded in real time, so this is simply an at-home recording of my contribution only, but I encourage you to learn more about my fellow panelists in the link that I've included on this slide. I was invited to participate to represent the parenting point of view. So I'm going to start with my bona fides in the parenting department. That's Seb. He's 20 and he is about midway through a 2-year apprenticeship in metalworking. And my daughter Lena is seen here in the make shirt, building a compostable toilet in Ghana as part of a service learning program. She's now 18 and she's starting community college in September. And this is me, all swagged out at Maker Faire, doing my job in my former role as head of consumer experience, where I was responsible for the digital platforms and a contributor to the business development strategy. And in that role, I was a strong internal advocate for the idea that the maker movement's biggest impact is its ability to disrupt educational norms and create new pathways for workforce development. But I see now that there was a certain irony between my positions held at work and my positions held at home with my teenagers. We'll come back to that thought. Everyone who works at Make involves their family. This is the Maker Faire crew last year here in San Mateo. That's Sabrina, our moderator, and her daughter, and me and my daughter, and Dale Dougherty, our CEO, and his daughter. Anyway, both my kids have been coming to Maker Faire for the past 5 years. They taught soldering in the soldering booth. They set up and broke down for the Diet Coke and Mentos show. They spent 5 years learning a lot and having a great time at Maker Faire. And that's how I'm a maker mom. So what I want to talk about today is really just to reprise the thoughts I put into this Medium blog that I posted a couple of weeks ago in preparation for this panel. And I start with this joke that Berkeleyites like to say about Berkeley High School being a gateway between Yale or jail. And I start with that joke because it is what my experience felt like and what I think it feels like for a lot of parents who are preparing their kids for college admissions, where it's so much at stake. Just a very highly anxious period. And I bought into this idea. I felt like getting them into a 4-year school was the most important thing I had to do for them since I potty trained them. But in those 5 years at Make, 4 years of them in high school, something had changed for my kid. And I'll never know if it was being involved in Maker Faire or that fire starter class I signed him up for at the Crucible or just some iconoclastic streak of his own. But my kid decided at 19 that he wanted to become a maker. And I got the phone call last year from my son. Guess what, Mom? I decided not to go to college. That was the silent screaming inside my head. But while I'm silent screaming, I have to listen to my son. And in his voice, I hear a real sense of pride and excitement. And he says to me, Mama, if I'm not in the workshop, I'm thinking about how quickly I can get to the workshop. And so I have to ask myself in that moment, what more do I want for my kid than for him to love his life and his livelihood? And I realized that I was guilty of this. And Seb made another choice. And by doing that, he rescued us both from this fate. So here are some of the photos that he sent me this year from his first year apprenticeship. And I feel really proud of him and his work. But the truth is that it took me a while to wholeheartedly break out of that Yale or jail mental straitjacket that I'd put myself in and accept that I'd been driving us all to a false choice for 5 years. Now, to be clear, I am not anti-college. I am not here to say that your kid should skip college, but I am making a passionate shout out for support of career and technical education. Either because your family just can't afford it, and Generation Z, by the way, is much less friendly to student debt than the Millennials or Generation Y. Or if your kid is also a fish trying to climb a tree. And if it's not your kid, then it's your neighbor's kid, or your sister's kid, or your coworker's kid, or all of our kids as a collective that we're making feel stupid for no reason at all. And why do we submit ourselves to this college admissions race madness? Because we're afraid of this. This is a number from the 2017 Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, we could debate public policy that created this statistic all day, but I'm just really trying to make one point. If you suspect that your kid is a fish, educate your family about alternative career paths that maybe you haven't been considering. And I'm not just talking about becoming a robotics engineer, although kudos for them too. But if service jobs were filtered out of that $712 number, then that figure would be much higher. And also, when the maker movement first started making an impact on our culture and started being talked about in the press, there was a lot of attention on how it was going to change the future of manufacturing. And in the last couple of years, there have been the counter headlines saying that it failed that mission. And I would like to say that those conclusions are based only on the fact that the 3D printer sales market turned out to be softer than had been forecast. But that in fact the maker movement has changed the future of manufacturing. This is an example of the kind of maker now being recruited by the National Association of Manufacturers. This is their creatorswanted.org website, and it is a campaign for a national tour of high schools and community colleges where they go out to support career and technical education and to recruit young people into jobs in manufacturing. This is one of the makers featured in that campaign. Her name is Maxie. I've included the YouTube link if you would like to actually watch the whole video and see where she works, but I'll just let her speak for herself.
My name's Maxie Cifarelli. I work here at Marlin Steel, and I program and operate the CNC router. I was always an artist. I actually went to college for interdisciplinary object design. That program really taught me 3D modeling. And once you learn about 3D modeling, you can do anything. I graduated college and I worked as a jeweler. I didn't love it. I looked for other jobs and this popped up and I said, it's similar to what I already know, so let me try this. Manufacturing is a lot of problem solving and figuring things out as you go. No 2 days are the same. I like to see how many young women are getting into manufacturing and engineering nowadays. It's refreshing when you meet other women that make.
This is another one of the creators featured on this website. His name is RJ Camille, and he is a 28-year-old, build technician at Proto Labs facility in Plymouth, Minnesota. And I looked up their website, and what Proto Labs does is rapid prototyping and on-demand production. Injection molding, for example, sheet metal fabrication, CNC machining, 3D printing. Those are the things listed on their website. And in his profile on creatorswanted.org, he says, "It dawned on me that the very thing I was going to college for, which was growth, opportunity, self-discovery, and an education of skills, was the foundation of the industry I found myself in." So, whether or not your kid goes to college, my point is twofold. First of all, let's find some ways, as parents, to support and be proud of our fish and to help them be proud of themselves. And second, don't panic. Fish can get good jobs too, well paid, robot proof jobs, like RJ Camille here. So for kids like my kid who opted out, and for all the kids who can't go to a 4-year school for whatever reason, we need to invest in career and technical education options. So we reject the false choice of Yale or jail and create more rewarding opportunities for makers out of the gate. And makers are people who have these same keywords on their resumes. So what can parents do? Well, I'm going to say that parents have a lot of power in this process because we write the tuition checks. So first of all, obviously, take your kids to Maker Faire. Participate in Maker Faire. This is my little nephew, very proud of his soldering badge at Maker Faire. And at home, start giving advice like this. Practice failing. Learn to fix things. And never let everybody's doing it be the answer for your kid or your family. But there's more. If you're in that phase where you're shopping around for a high school, ask the high schools about apprenticeships as well as AP classes. Ask them what they teach about community college options and how to calculate student debt as part of the admissions process. Make sure your kids acquire life skills in high school. First of all, please teach them to drive as 17-year-olds. The SAT score is once in a lifetime. Driving is forever, and they're going to be out there with the rest of us on the highway. So please teach them to drive. And hey, what about bicycle or automotive repair while you're at it? Look for colleges that review project portfolios as part of the admissions process so that there are other, and I'm just going to say cheat-proof, measures of aptitude besides standardized tests. I'm here on this panel with Chris Peterson from MIT, which is one such university. Consider career and technical training programs as a gap year alternative. In the picture is Gene Sherman, and he is CEO and founder of Vocademy in Riverside, California. And Vocademy, that's what they offer, a gap year alternative. So at the end of the program, kids can go on to school, but hey, with skills that allow them to earn a living and earn their way through college, or Vocademy will help place them directly in the workforce. Lastly, if you're a hiring manager, consider whether or not that job posting really requires a bachelor's degree, because if it doesn't, and you say it does, then you're part of the problem. So here's my last thought. The admissions cheating scandal is a good thing. It's so outrageous that it throws the whole system into relief and makes us ask some questions that were really already overdue. And maybe it'll force us to think about how to turn Generation Y, plus E, into Generation DIY. And by that, I mean self-sufficient, emotionally resilient young adults who start life with life skills and who demand more pathways to self-respect than we've been giving them.